Well, as I'm sure you guys are probably aware, it is almost October, which means the ever fun Halloween season. And since I was thinking on that the last few days, I figured, you know what? What better time than now to share some of my paranormal experiences? And what better place than one of the local cemeteries? This is the one that's closest to where I live right now. It's actually probably about 150 years old, if that. But I've actually also had an experience here. Back when we first moved in, I was just wandering through, as one does. Especially if one happens to be of the darker persuasion. But yeah, that happened to be wandering around over by the veterans part of the cemetery, and had my old bike with me at the time. And as I was going to turn on one of the little grassy paths, kind of felt like I had my back tire brush up against this lady's skirts. And since I was the only one here at the time, it didn't bother me much that I happened to apologize out loud. And probably about a minute after that, I happened to wander over to a headstone that had a name very similar to my mom's maiden name. Not the exact spelling, but similar enough that it caught my eye. Stopped for a minute or two to say hello, and went on my way. Told Mom about what I had found, and she's like, brought over a couple days later to show her. Wasn't an exact same spelling, but and like I said, I've had a few paranormal experiences, a couple of which were somewhat unnerving. One where I was actually at my old job. I happened to be vacuuming the main hallway, and it was probably about 9:30, quarter to 10 at night. It was just me and my other two coworkers in the building at the time. No one else really came in at that time of night. But happened to look up towards where the 8th grade lockers were, and crossing the hall from where the gang bathrooms, the 7th and 8th grade gang bathrooms were, to the other side of the hall, was this black shadow figure with red eyes. This, of course, kind of scared the piss out of me, in that I wasn't really all that used to really seeing something like that, and it was a shadow figure. But I kind of kept quiet about it till probably a couple of months later. Told my supervisor at the time about it, and he was like, "Dude, that was me. You should have said hi." I was like, "Dude, this wasn't you. I know your snow clothing by now. This was not you." And well, might have been about the same height, but I'll tell you what, it was not my supervisor. And probably about a year later, we were having, a little bit before the renovation started at work, we were having trouble with the alarm system. Old building, you'd think probably a few bugs were flying in. Well, probably were, but this is how, or there was probably dust flying in front. We get that sucker pretty dust free. So we would keep dusting the motion sensors where it was happening, which was up by the 8th grade lockers. And the one time we were doing that, I happened to start heading up towards the front of the building to check the alarm box. And again, about halfway down, I saw this grayish figure head up towards the double doors and then turn right where there was a line of fencing between the building and the support pillar for the front porch. Little roof thing. Kinda looked like the one secretary we had at the time. Kinda unnerved me again. I didn't say anything until we were all up front to go set the alarm. They're like, shit. So that pretty much wound up being, I wanted to seem disrespectful, but pretty much became the running joke that we had a ghost in the building. So anytime we were having trouble with the alarm after that, either me or Joe wound up saying, "Hey ghost, knock it off, we want to go home." That usually cleared it up. Usually. There were a few times when we did have to call my supervisor. But, hey, what are you gonna do? And then, I want to say it was probably a little bit after the grayed out secretary. Yeah, Joe, my other coworker and I were sitting in our little office, waiting for for time to go home. All three of us heard a cat go meow. Mind you, again, only ones in the building, no animals in the building. So we were like, great, now we got a ghost animal. Probably about a minute or two later, Joe and I heard the cat meow again. So, yeah, that's actually just a couple of my work experiences. And probably the weirdest one I've had, other than the old shadow figure, was when the folks and I were still living out on Long Scap Road. And this was, shoot, maybe a month before we had to move out. Yeah, we had issues with that landlord and the one neighbor. Yeah, she was a little bit of a whack job, but who am I to judge? She had actually lost her kid when he got hit by a vehicle out in front of where we were living. That would be enough to drive most folks a little around the bend. But this was, like I was saying, this was about a month before we moved out. I was laying, and it actually happened a couple nights in a row, but this is probably about, yeah, like I said, about a month before we left. I was laying in bed by my back bedroom window, and I kept hearing this rustling right by the window. Yeah, it could have been an animal, could have been just about anything, but just the energy, whatever it was giving off, was just uncomfortable as heck. I mean, it unnerved me enough that I had one heck of a hard time falling asleep those few nights. Now, that really was about the only time I really felt anything in that house. And, well, other than my one deceased parent, my one deceased relative, but he was in and out occasionally. And, yeah, and we've also got a bit of a history of having relatives come visit me and Mom when they pass on. Yeah, my granddad, he died of due to cancer, but a couple of years, right when he died, I was going down to the bathroom where we are, going through the kitchen. I stepped down, happened to look to the left, and clear as day, I saw his face from about the neck, from about the shoulders up, and I was like, oh shit, Granddad died. And for any spirits here, I'm sorry for the profanity. And told Mom about it when she came home. She was like, I was feeling him too. Now fast forward to, shoot, this, I want to say about, shoot, when did Uncle Phil die? Probably about, right around April or May, thereabout. I kept thinking about it, about my Uncle Phil, and I was like, you know what, Mom? I keep having this feeling about Uncle Phil. Have Bruce call him and Aunt Fran, see what's going on with them. And he did call her. She said he was okay. Next day, a few days later, same thing again. It was like, called Mom. I was like, Mom, seriously, have Dad call Phil and Fran, because I have got the worst feeling going right now. Turns out he had actually passed from the cancer. So, yeah, for those of you out there who don't want to get checked for cancer, do it. It will save your life. Mom lucked out because they fortunately caught it early and it was a slow-growing cancer. But still, do it. It will save your life, and you never know. You might actually give the sensitives in your family some warning before they all of a sudden see you standing there in their house on the day you die. Not to be morbid or anything, but yeah. So do it. And yeah. If you happen to like this video, click the like and the subscribe buttons down in the description below. Check out my blog, my Twitter feed, and my Patreon down in the description below. And to all my Ghost Village buddies who may be watching this, hi! Yes, if you don't know what Ghost Village is, I will provide a link down in the description. It's a really good paranormal site. You don't have to believe to sign up, just because God knows we've got enough skeptics out there on the site. But yeah, again, click the like and the subscribe buttons down in the description below, and hey, stay spooky.